This is another 6-player progressive card game which is being played with expert plus ranked players. And I think my biggest priority right now is to make sure that I stay spread out well enough, having a few different armies in different places of the map. So this is why I added my newly gotten troops into North America, so nobody would have crushed my 2 troops army there. As otherwise I would have just stayed having my troops in Europe and Asia, so just in 2 places instead of 3. But also another thing which I would like to do is to deter the white player from capturing Australia as long as possible, so this is why I will build a bigger army on Siam, is because if someone gets a continent in the beginning of the game, then that player could really have a good troop advantage over others. It will be easier for that player to take someone else out, and at the same time it will be harder or less worth to take that continent having player out by others as well. And then another thing is when a lot of players capture continents, then those who end up with no continents don't have that much of field left to be spread out enough well, so that's really a big disadvantage to them next to already being quite weaker. Anyway, I would say that was a mistake for the orange player to invade the black player into South America. In progressive cards you would like to avoid wasting your troops as much as possible, so to have enough of them to take someone out when it will be worth for the cards and to not end up being a very easy target for others. So if someone got a continent having even 6 troops on the border, then you're simply ruining yours and that player's chances to win while increasing all of the 4 rest players' chances to win. So the fortunate thing for the orange player was that he only lost 2 troops taking down black 6. So in this case that wasn't something really bad, but I mean you never know what kind of a luck you will get. So that's never worth to risk like that when it doesn't help you out in any way. And for the orange player to move his troops back to North America again after invading the black player into South America so to prevent black from holding it, made the initial orange player's move completely meaningless waste of troops. As if he stayed being in South America, then at least it would have prevented the black player from recapturing it and starting to receive extra troops. Anyway, I would have liked to stay putting troops on Siam longer, but the thing was that the pink player unleashed the white player's Australian army which was blocked from me by capturing the territory of Indonesia, so with that white's Australian army being unleashed and with him having another smaller army in India as well, I wouldn't have liked that the white player would potentially crushed my army, even though it wouldn't have been worth for him at all. But this is what the players who prioritize continents as the most important thing could tend to do, so I didn't want to risk with my army being not as big as I wanted to add my troops in some other places as well, so to keep staying spread out enough well. Anyway, as you saw, the orange player took down my 4 troops in North America, which would have been a waste of troops for him, but luckily enough he only lost 1 troop from head attack. But what he did is removed me from one of my places, so now I'm not as much spread out as I was. Usually you don't want to make other players be as easy targets to be taken out for their cards, and I mean the orange player had a 1 troop territory to attack with his European army anyway, so I think that was really meaningless and even hurtful for him to take that army down, as he just increases the chances to win for that player which will be lucky to eventually take me out. I'm the first player to trade in sets getting the lowest amount of troops, so I think for me a probability to survive after trading in my second set would be very low if it won't be worth for me to take someone out, and the orange player made me as a much easier target to take out for whichever player who gets the opportunity after a few turns, and that isn't something you want. You want that you would be the only one getting opportunities to take others out when it's worth for their cards, as this is how you win the game. Now I was wondering whether I should trade in a set at 3 or not, and I decided to do it. I mean that's quite unlikely for other players to trade in their sets at 3 cards, so as the first player to trade in a set next at 4 cards, I would have received the same lowest amount of troops anyway. So for me to trade in a set was more about the safety measures. I mean it wouldn't have been a good idea for someone to take me out anyway since they wouldn't be able to trade in a set in the same turn, making themselves as easy targets to get eliminated straightly next. But I mean this game is with public lobby players who could quite likely to not know it, so I decided that I will rather be safe and not risk. Anyway, I think I did a good job to make the white player block by keeping my army in Middle East, so he would have been forced to capture the territory of China next to India as well, making his army in Siam blocked. The black player almost ruined the plan in one of the last turns by unleashing the white player's army when she had a territory to attack somewhere else, but I mean the white player made himself blocked once again, so everything's good. If another player makes his biggest army block in progressive cards, then you don't want to unleash it because that player wouldn't have great chances to win, as you win at progressive cards by taking other players out when it's worth for their cards, and if your biggest army is blocked, then you will struggle to do that. So basically the white player is the least favorite player to win as long as his army is blocked. The black player has just taken the orange player out, which I will say was definitely worth for her, but now it looks like she is about to run out of the time to take the pink player out. And I mean, this is why you should try to plan ahead and deploy your troops as fast as possible, and I mean that is something what I should improve on also, as sometimes I get very slow when it's more complicated, but what the black player definitely must do, is to turn the camera animations off in the settings, as without them you can attack so much faster. Though luckily it was the pink player's turn straightly next, and with him having a set at 4 cards to trade it in, the game wasn't given away for another player. But with that it looks like I'm dead, as I think the pink player is taking me out next turn, so with that I try to capture some extra 1-troop territories so to make it a little bit harder to take me out, but I mean I didn't capture many, so maybe that was really meaningless. But I mean all of these players are very slow, probably not having camera animations turned off, so might even a small amount of territories will matter, but who knows, I'm in a definitely miserable situation for sure. Especially after I've just got targeted by the blue player. 1-troop territories were fine, but that wasn't really a good reason to crush my bigger armies as well as the black player's ones just to make sure that we would get eliminated and another player who gets to take us out would get a very easy victory. And I mean the black player having a set at 3 cards would have gotten lucky to survive if she hadn't taken me out when not being able to trade in a set in the same turn and not being able to capture lots of territories either, so to potentially hope that other players wouldn't have enough time to take her out. But now what she just did is made herself as another easy target to get eliminated next. So basically the game has been given away for the pink player. With him taking the blue and black players out, he will deal with the white player easily as well. But it looks like the pink player is a very slow player as well, and ran out of the time taking the black player out. So now actually the winner is white. And actually that's very surprising for me because with him being the only player who was blocking his biggest army, he was definitely the least favorite to win the game, but when he was smart to fortify it from the blocked place out, so props to him for that, and then basically all of my opponents were blundering the game. And actually this might be a perfect example on why I do think that all losing places should be worth the same to make it the most fair. If you enjoyed watching this game, then I would recommend you watching this one as well. That's another interesting progressive card game.